Hello and welcome to the TV room. David Bradley here. There's not a whole lot of excitement going on right now. The drive is being tormented. I'm going to stop it for a second so you can see that it will stop. It has stopped. And that is what it looked like before when nothing was going on. It did. It did indeed. But then the belt was replaced. I'm just doing a catalog. There's not a whole lot, like I've got this little program in here that it really doesn't. Oh, that's something I should do. Yes, I should try to desave quote. I will call this torment. And I will do it onto D0. And we'll see if this drive, which I really haven't tested writing, will write. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh, but did we write? We might have. Let's see. Yes, torment was written, but it did have a bit of a hard time there. So let's try. I'll just desave 2, comma D0 and see if it has a similar difficulty. And it seems that it did not. Oh yeah, I cataloged both drives, so I got both drives. Much noisier window. Okay, so it does seem that that worked. Now I'm going to just look at drive 1 for a second. And wow, there is a couple of large files on here. Anyway, you know what? We've seen the head move. That's pretty much all we have in mind. I'm going to list this program, which of course does all these magical things. Actually, you know what I think I'm going to do is run line 5, because I don't want TI string to be reset. I will see if that actually accomplished that. Yes, it did. So now it has been testing, as I can see, well, not completely, because I was doing other things, but now it's at 6 minutes and 25 seconds, which is somewhat accurate. It is. It is indeed. So, the drive is spinning, the lights are working, the error lights are not coming up, and life is good. I suppose what I might do at this moment, because I'm here, and I can, maybe I will twist this over a little bit, because there, when I was showing before, I know from a distance you can't really see, but those two little things, the A and the B, are the critical wires that go to the head, which is how the head and the read writing gets back to this board. And you really got to be careful with them. They are tiny little wires, and they just are. And then farther back, there are 2 of these. I'll zoom in a bit. There we are. That is the black one with it's got these little plastic things. There are little holes on the circuit board that help hold them in place. That's really, like, those are the 2 connections from the drive. In this case, it was the B connector and that that bigger connector in the back, that tells the motors and things to do their thing. So that's what you got to take off when you do what you do. It is. Now if I twist this a little, I can see that the ribbon cable is the cable that goes to the circuit board in the top of the drive. The cable next to it with the red, black, orange, brown, and yellow wires is for power. And then beside that is the other connector that goes for drive 1. And on the board there's little tips, things, and stuff. And behind it is the typical Commodore power supply transformer thing that, because it's buried away inside, it doesn't need to be pretty, and it's not, but they're pretty reliable and pretty heavy, and they do work most of the time. If we zip up a little bit, we can also see other things going on here. Those cables there are, the long one to the left is power coming from the power supply to the circuit board. The next one is power supply from the circuit board to the little circuit board in the front on drive 0. The ribbon cable is the board up there talking to the board down here. And then next to that is a tiny, tiny little one. It's got an orange and white wire, and that is the one that tells you when there's an error, and that LED is in the middle of the drive, usually at the top. Eventually, at some point, they did have a dual LED thing that green would be displayed normally and red when there was an error. This one is just off until there's an error, and then it's red. So the torture and the torment are continuing. The drives are spinning. I'm sure you can hear that. And so far, this is looking pretty fine. So maybe we'll go back to where we started. Oh, those are those are big capacitors. Where are we here? There we are. So there's the head. Be careful of that. The dress gets spinning. And there, if that is not spinning, you ain't going to get nothing. No matter what you hear, no matter how good it sounds from the outside, that's got to spin. And on occasion, although I have not done it recently, and I've never done it on this drive, I do take a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of lubricant and I put it on there. I do. And recently, I actually don't have it right handy here, I did finally find, just before my hobby store closed down, they did have a syringe with such stuff. They did, so you can apply a tiny little bit. Because that's all you need. You don't need an overwhelming thing, just a tiny little bit. So I'm going to type in, I stopped the program, I'm going to type in CONT, C-O-N-T, and it will continue. The drive will spin, the torment will continue, and life is good. So one thing about these Commodore things, like there's the whole board on the top. These are called smart peripherals, which of course, remember, some people from other computers way in the day didn't like to think that our peripherals were smart and theirs weren't. There's nothing needed to, like DOS loaded, there's nothing to boot, there's nothing, whatever you turn it on, it's ready to go. It chatters the heads, it spins the drive, and it's ready. That's because the upper board is almost as complicated as the board for the PET, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 major chips and many, many support chips and other things, and transistors, I believe. So it's very similar to the PET board in terms of complexity, but it makes it so that, you can send it commands. You don't need to boot things. It's all right there. This also was probably a reason they were probably a little more pricey than some other things, because there was essentially a whole other computer inside the disk drive to tell it what to do. And one of my favorite things was the backup command, where you could take a disk and put it in one drive and put a disk in the other drive and say backup, for example, D0 to D1, and it would go and format the disk in the other drive. And this actually, it was pretty fast, relatively speaking. It didn't actually copy the files one by one. It just copied the tracks and sectors one by one, so that the disk would end up being exactly the same. You could also do copy D0 to D1, and that would take longer because it was actually copy each file one by one by one. And that was kind of a way you could, depending on the situation, if you had a disk that you thought was very very fragmented and things all over the place, that was a way to kind of get it to put it together nicer, because it didn't worry about where things were in the initial drive. It would just copy things, and generally when you copy in such a way, it will put them on fairly neatly and orderly. But the copy command did not format the output disk, so you had to take care of that. Indeedy. Anyway, so welcome to the insides of a 4040. I guess the next thing I really need to do with great care, because it's not always that easy, is to secure this drive with the screws again. And then a little tidying up of the sticker stuff, and maybe put the screws back in and declare it to be happy. Anyway, thanks. I'm noticing it's getting a little louder. I'm going to do a little drive tickle maneuver. That should make the heads bang a bit, but it shouldn't do anything bad. That was drive 0. Sorry, drive 1. I'll do drive 0. See, I pulled it up. It's not spinning. Woohoo, it's not spinning. The head will move. The head will bang. And I'll put it back down. And it is sounding better. Indeed, you know what? Before I very likely add this to the collection of things to sell, I will do a little oiling and a little head cleaning, etc., etc., etc. I suspect I will. Anyway, well, that's it. That's all. You have a lovely, lovely day, and I'm David Bradley in the TV room. We'll see you again. Bye for now.